Okay, so I guess the idea is to get that in there and me like right under it. Got it.
Is the height good enough? You want to put this under it?
The only thing that let me just- Faria, you might be going in and out, so just stay still.
I'm going in and out.
No, I'm saying you might, Faria, you got your guys' names are so similar, so I'll do my best to make sure that I say it slowly so you know who I'm referring to. Yeah, she's got a nice little background on, so she doesn't stay still, she disappears. Okay.
I know.
All right, so we're right at 6:02, guys. We've got a little over close to 110 people registered. Now, usually with these live webinars, about half of the folks actually make it on, and then we'll have a recording and we'll send it out to everybody and we'll send it to you guys as well. So let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Bismillah. So I want to welcome Farrah Ali and Faria Ibrahim to the TheREIBros podcast show. I'm really excited about in the realtor world, you have a lot of females that are killing it and crushing it out there. And I would say that space is probably more dominated by females that are doing extremely well. But REI investing, real estate investing is a whole different niche within real estate. And most of the conferences, seminars, and workshops that I attend is usually dominated all by males, right? So you guys have kind of etched your way into an industry that predominantly doesn't make space for you, but you've made space for yourself here. And so I'm excited to have you guys on and learn a little bit about your journey. Farrah, let's start with you. If you can talk a little bit about, your background. You're a mom, you're an author. You've got this huge rental portfolio that you're building. You're also wholesaling, and now you've gotten into the education side of the business. So you're also teaching other people how to do it and paying it forward that way. So talk a little bit about, your background, where you came from, where you grew up, your education, all of that. And how did you stumble into real estate?
Okay, well, Shomail, thank you for having me. First of all, I just wanted to say that. So my background basically is, I was born and raised in Chicago. I've been here pretty much all my life. Okay. And born in a middle-class family. Parents immigrated from India. My dad's an engineer. My mom, kind of worked in and out, but mostly home taking care of the kids. Got 3 sisters. So, we started working when we were younger. At the age of 15, 16, kind of just to help pay for our expenses and stuff like that. So a lot of the work ethic we learned from, my dad and my parents and things like that. And then
what was your first job at 15?
My first job was at a dealership, Toyota dealership.
Okay, so you were selling cars?
No, I wasn't selling cars. I was just working in the office, like filing, putting papers in order, that type of stuff. So cool. I did that part-time while going to school. And then, what happened was, it was around, I went to college for a couple of years, and then it was around when I was like 20, 21 years old, and, my parents being traditional, what happens at that age is, oh, we need to look for a guy for you. So
yeah, because they see girls' biological clocks go faster, I guess. So you got to get married.
I think the parents are just worried, like, oh my God, probably going to have boyfriends and this and that. So they're like, okay, well, let's,
yeah, so we'll get
it's that
consent.
time, I guess. So I guess you're most valuable when you're in your early 20s in our community, right?
Yeah.
So then so I ended up getting married, and so didn't finish school. I ended up getting married and then having my first son within, got pregnant within a few months of getting married, and then within a year had my first child. So
Okay.
after that, had my second one 2 years later. And
Well,
then
just before that, did you drop everything? Were you working at the time? Or you were just doing like the housewife thing and then raising the kids and stuff?
so for the first 6 months, I was doing the housewife thing. Yeah, I dropped school completely because I'm like,
Okay.
I don't need this anymore. And then what happened was he's my ex-husband now, but my husband at the time, he got into stocks, and during that time where the whole tech industry fell, right, the stocks, but he got in right before it fell, and he borrowed close to $100,000 on his credit card to buy stocks. So when that whole thing fell,
just before the .com bust.
yeah, exactly, just before. So
yeah, I remember it well.
And so what happened was all of a sudden we were in this huge credit card debt because I didn't even know he borrowed money from the credit card to get into stocks.
Okay.
So when that happened, I was like, holy crap, like I'm not used to being in debt like that. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna help. So I'm like, let me just get a job. So I got a job getting $12 an hour. My son was only 6 months old at the time. I'm like, whatever it is, I'll just contribute. So would work, just write off the checks to the credit card. Just went on for a couple of years. Eventually, we were able to pay it off. But that's kind of where I started.
And those things have like massive rates also that you're competing against, right? So you're paying down the principal, but then the interest is tagging on.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Okay. How long did that take, if you don't mind me asking?
I think it took a good 3 to 4 years because, he was also paying it, but then, and I didn't spend any money on myself. It was just about just getting those cards paid down.
Okay.
And so, I want to be supportive.
The YSL purses from Chinatown.
No,
at the time.
I didn't even. I mean, I had one person. That's all I kept for a couple of years. So
okay,
you got to do what you got to do when you have kids. There's other expenses.
Yeah, delayed gratification for sure.
Yeah, and we were always taught like you want to be a supportive wife. You want to be a good mother and all of that. So I was trying to be this perfect person. And what I realized over the years was in trying to please and being supportive, I forgot about myself. And what happened was that I think I was starting to being taken for granted, Then after that, it was always something else. Like my money always needed to be, used in the household, and never could I have, really anything to spend on my own. But then I think there's a lot of other things that happened, but I remember a point when I asked, hey, why, my money goes into this account, like, can I be added to the bank account? Because I feel like whenever I have to ask for a little bit of money, like I feel like a little child asking you for, just for $100 or whatever, So I'm like, I would just rather just be added to the bank account and then I can pull it out. I mean, you've known me for so long, I'm not irresponsible or anything. And he wouldn't do it. So at that point, I realized.
I just gotta say, what's so interesting about that? Because being a student of like Islamic knowledge, one of the earliest rights that women were given was that your money is only your money. It's not your husband's money, right? So the money that you earn is actually yours and yours alone. And that what he earns is actually shared with you. So he's got an obligation to take care of you, shelter you, educate, clothe you, feed you, all of those things. Those are his obligations. It's mandatory and obligatory, but your money's yours and it's your disposable money. So that's interesting that this whole dynamic was actually working in reverse and against you.
It was. And also I didn't mention what it was that his parents were also living with us. So we were supporting his parents and his sister who was divorced and her son. So we had this, household full of people that, were trying to make things work.
That's a lot of mouths to feed. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then after that, like things just started getting worse and worse to the point where I just could not take it anymore. I mean, there was so much unjust that was going on with me.
And you were like, how old at this time?
So my kids were 7 and 9. So I was my late 20s.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So then after that, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And I basically picked up a few of my stuff. I had rented out a house 2 weeks before because I was thinking about how am I going to do this, because I'm like, I can't let him know that I'm leaving.
So
Because
that's how you
it
got
would
into real
cause-
estate. You started as a renter. That's
No,
how you
no,
got into
no,
real
no.
estate.
I guess I didn't know I was going to do real estate at that time. At that
That's your
point, I was
origin
just
story
like,
right there. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
At that point, I was just like, I just need to get out. But the thing is, I couldn't tell him that I wanted to separate because that would cause a lot of chaos. And I knew what the consequences would be in that. So I'm like, okay, I got to rent a house without him knowing. So I rent this place. And then I don't take anything with me, no furniture, nothing. Like I just take my kids and a handful of things, my favorite clothes and some jewelry that my mom gave. And I leave. And there's a whole story about what happened when I was leaving, which is in my book that you guys will be able to read if you order, but I'm not going to go
now
into
you
that.
got see you got me really intrigued now. Okay, cool.
And so then, so from there, I had to start from scratch. So I had to buy new beds for the kids. I had to buy a table, a couch, everything. I had to start completely from scratch because remember, even though I was working, I never got to save my money because it was always going to the household. So I had just a little bit of money for the security deposit and first month's rent. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make this work somehow. But I did have a full-time job. So when I got that $12 an hour job, I worked my way up. I got 5 promotions in a matter of 7 years, and I worked my way up to a manager position. So I was getting pretty good income at the time when I did move out. But the best part about it is when I moved out, I felt so much freedom. Like it was like my first paycheck that I got to ever keep in my entire life to myself.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So, then just kind of built my way up. And then what happened was, as I was, the paycheck is nice, but then it would always go away in expenses. Like I would get it and be gone, So I'm like, what can I do to make more money? So I'm researching and Googling online, and everything kind of goes towards real estate. Like real estate investing is a way to create wealth. And so that's what I did. I went to my local meetup group, went to a seminar, learned from my mentor, and we have a support group too. So learned from him, and then we all been just from then I've been able to scale up. So I got my first property while in class, and then just been able to scale up.
And what was the strategy used to get that first property? So was that a rental, buy and hold, or did you flip it? Or
yeah, the first one was a rental, because what my mentor told me was, since I had a W-2 and I had a good job, he said, don't flip. You want to create wealth. In order to create wealth, you have all the resources, you have good credit, so just start building. He said, it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight a little bit, but that's the way to go. So my first 6 deals I held. And then my 7th deal or so, I had to flip because of a certain circumstance. And then I went back to holding after that.
Gotcha. Awesome. And so what year was that when you started to, yeah, somebody's asking if the recording will be made public, and yes, it will be. We'll send out a recording, so no worries. What year was that when you got into real estate?
2014.
That was 2014. So it's coming up on 8 years now.
Yes.
Right. So good amount of know-how, a lot of probably battle scars through the way, but it seems like your prior life had kind of prepped you for entrepreneurship. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes certain situations, make you, that's why you should never make you stronger, right? So you should never, like I believe that whatever happens in your life happens for a reason, and it preps you for the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. And you only know that when you're connecting the dots, in retro, and then it's 2020, right? So Faria, let's talk a little bit about you. Now, I've known you for some time. I saw you as the quiet hijabi girl at Glenn Gallucci's real estate meetup.
That's where you met.
And then Faria jumped into our weekend boot camp program that we used to do at the time in person. We, wholesaling, rehabbing, raising capital and rentals and all of that. And then you pulled me into Ohio, which was, what was that, February of 2018. She's like, I get these emails from Ohio deals. We should check this out. And there was like a gap, right, between like the last time I had talked to you and then all of a sudden this communication started. So we flew out to Ohio and did a ton of deals there. I think we ended up doing about 115 deals total, like overall, in Toledo, Ohio. We're less active there now, especially after the pandemic, but you had me getting on a plane every Monday, leaving my family. I was like, wow, this is like a corporate job again. Because that's what I used to do. Yeah, that's what I used to do in my past life. But yeah, talk a little bit about your background. You're from my home state, New Jersey. So take it away.
Sure. Well, thank you first for having me. I'm humbled by this. And so I was born in Bangladesh and moved. Well, I first came when I was 6, but then we went back and I actually settled in here in middle school. And had my father always had his business overseas, so he hasn't really settled here. So he was going back and forth. I stayed with my mom up until high school. Then my father had a heart attack, so my mom moved back. So I pretty much had my aunt living next door, and I had my place to myself. So it was a good time in high school. And then this traditional basic background where if you don't go to either engineering school or med school, and then you kind of have to either go back, get married, and all that good stuff. So I did end up going to engineering school. I started at Stevens, then I graduated from NJIT, which is in North New Jersey.
Yeah.
Got married, had 3 children. I kind of figured if I don't, then my parents would probably choose somebody for me. So I kind of went ahead and did what I needed to do. So I something that's, somebody that's ideal for them. So when I had my children in the beginning, I still went back to, I finished my engineering, but I always wanted to be in the fashion also. So I did a little bit in the fashion. And then I was working when my twins were up until they were a year. I did go back to work, and then I got pregnant with my younger one. So then I started, I was home for a little bit. I think when my children were 5 and 3, me and their father separated, and I started, I worked in the fashion for a little bit. I had my clothing line, and I did some day trading as well. Then I knew I was going to get into, I always wanted to be in real estate because my father's background is in construction as well. So I always was attracted to real estate, and I knew it's probably a way to, and they say 80% of the millionaires' tax record comes from real estate background. So right. I kind of knew or wanted always, I was passionate about it, just didn't know exactly where to start. So my first property was a rental property. And I didn't have great credit like Farrah. So I started searching in Craigslist to find a hard money lender. Okay. And
you didn't have a W-2 either. Right?
No, I didn't. So okay. I didn't have W-2, and I definitely did not have a whole credit background that was great. So I found a hard money lender in Craigslist, and who happened to fund my first rental for about, I think 75%, and I had to put 25% down, which I actually had a personal loan that I was going to buy a car for, but I ended up putting that down for the rental. Okay. And I actually didn't do much work to it. I ended up being able to sell that for much more. So I kind of started getting the idea that, maybe if I rehabbed it, I would probably do better. So that's when I started looking into the rehab. And I started doing rehab in New Jersey. That's when I started going to all the meetup events, and I went to Glenn Galucci's. I met you, Shomail, and went to your event. And of course, anybody that attended Shomail's boot camp, he's very thorough, pretty much everything you need to know, especially in this area. That really was helpful. I also at the same time started getting into the commercial side, and I am part of a mastermind group in the commercial side. My mentor, Scott Shield, he does Commercial Academy. So I started getting into that, and I started looking for commercial property as well. So that helped. So now after a couple of years, I think from 2018, when we were doing the TheREIBros, that worked out well. But after that, I really started focusing more on the commercial side, because I found the rehabs is just the time it took me to, and how management intensive it was. I figured that if I do the same thing for a commercial, obviously the numbers are better and bigger. So I was more attracted to that. So yeah, then since about 2017, 2018, I've been really focused on the retail strips and industrial building. That's what I'm focusing on right now.
So a lot of people, when they enter this space, it usually starts with like a 2 a.m. infomercial. Then you end up at a meetup or something, and then probably some sort of a program where you get educated. And then you go in your journey with rentals and wholesaling, and then you kind of graduate towards like a bigger niche. Either it's doing new construction, built for rent, or commercial and other things like mobile home parks and so on and so forth. What was your like aha moment to say that, okay, the rehabs are not scalable enough, enough with the wholesales, and then just making this quick jump? Because in a lot of people's mind, it's hard to conceive going from like 6-figure deals to all of a sudden 7- and 8-figure deals, and then having to raise capital and equity for that. And, and being a sponsor on those type of deals. To talk about a little bit about the mindset of making that jump from residential to commercial.
Yeah, I think me dealing with the contractors, which was my least favorite part, that's when I started getting frustrated with the residential. And then some of the smaller, I wouldn't say smaller, but like 4 units that I had with, actually this is in Toledo, the tenants, like I started getting called at midnight and all this, craziness. Like one of my tenants called, hey, we just had a shooting next to it. All the cops are here. The guy next door got arrested. I'm like, there goes my rent for him. So those started, this is in Toledo too. Yeah. So those things started really, they started bothering me where it was like, okay, well, I probably wouldn't get that type of call from more commercial tenants just because they are more sophisticated. Right. Usually you sign a 5-year lease or 10-year lease and you're kind of settled. I had my first mixed use commercial was in Trenton, and I started seeing how the tenants there, so it's mixed use, is 5 apartments and not 10 for retail. I've never had issue as much with the retail tenants. So that's kind of started. That
was the 9 unit. Okay, so you had both. You had residential and commercial mixed use, and you could do a side-by-side comparison on the tenants. Okay, and the tenant profile.
So that started,
interesting.
Yeah, that started interesting me. And then also the I would have to say, credit's given where it's due. My mastermind group that I'm part of in commercial definitely helped me a lot, because I started seeing the numbers, I started seeing the presentations, I started seeing the deals there that really helped me open up my mind to bigger deals and how to really start from the finish, how to find them, source them, fund them, and everything. So I had a lot of guide with that.
Okay, and Farrah, I'm going to come to you with how you put your first deal together. But before I do, Faria, as far as did you initially start as like a passive investor in a commercial deal as an LP, or did you start right as a sponsor and then start syndicating the deal and so on? Can you talk a little bit about that process, what's involved, and how do you raise capital for that? Because that's a separate, thing with a private placement memorandum and all that. So talk a little bit about that and the nitty gritty on that.
So I didn't go in as a passive. So one of my very earlier deals, the way I was structuring them is if I would find a deal and instead of getting a wholesale fee for the deal, I started taking equity for that deal. So I did the initial finding the deal, negotiating with the sellers, and then I started bringing in partners. I wouldn't say so much the syndication, it was more family friends from a lot of them or from my group. And I would have them come in, guide me through the process that I wasn't familiar with, or as far as raising the capital within the group, or again, family friends. And that helped with my first deal when I started, when I didn't have a portfolio. Once I started building up the portfolio, then obviously it starts getting a little bit easier. And also I'm started getting more wholesalers or other brokers and sellers. We started getting more deals that started helping me build my portfolio faster.
Okay, awesome. Farrah, talk about, when you mentioned 2014, you got started, the first 6 deals that you did were all rentals, so that, you took advantage of the W-2 situation that you had, your good credit and all of that. How did you find that first deal? More importantly, before that, how did you get over the inertia of just getting into action? How did you organize your life that, okay, I have 2 sons that I'm bringing up, I've got a full-time job, and now I've taken on this real estate thing. And, we're not selling t-shirts. This is, we're putting, 5 figures down payments and things like that. So it could be kind of scary, right? How did you just talk about that, those first couple of deals and how you put those together?
Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about the deals and then we'll talk about how I kind of managed my family life with that, right? So when I joined the program that my mentor had, and in part of that program, there's actually private money lenders that lend to people in that program. So the first deal, when I said I got within a month of joining class, that was just simple. I think that was just beginner's luck. That's what I'm going to call it. Because my second deal didn't come till 9
what was
months
it?
later.
Did you put up a bandit sign? Did you send out direct mail? Did you just find it on Zillow or MLS?
Yeah, actually, I found it on auction.com website.
Okay.
So
an online auction.
Yeah, online auction. So
and you just sat there bidding until you won.
No, it was actually a strange situation. So I didn't bid online. It was one that I found online, but it was actually a sheriff's sale auction.
Oh, you had to go in person.
So I didn't go in person, but somebody in that group went for me that was experienced, because part of all that is it's like a support group, right? So I found the property, I found the area that I wanted to invest in. I said, hey, this property looks good. Now we could not get inside the property because it was stated it was occupied, but when we looked through the windows, we could tell it was not occupied. But we didn't break in or anything, but we kind of could tell about how much of the rehab, the outside, obviously we knew. The inside, we could kind of tell by peeking in the windows, estimated about $20,000 in rehab. So
and you had this know-how from your group, your mentoring group.
My
so
mentor,
estimate repairs and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. So my mentor and
that's good. This is like legal insider information, right? Because before you get to the sheriff's sale, you can go visit the property, look inside, and get a basic idea of what's going on. Sometimes you have a HUD key, so that gives you access. Or sometimes the previous person just left the door open and just go in and take a peek.
Yeah.
So that happens.
Exactly.
So you went in, you estimated 20K in repairs. And what was the purchase price on this property?
Purchase price was 74, either 74 or 76.
Okay, so like mid 70s, plus another
70s.
20 in reno, right? And what could you rent it at when you got done with the renovations?
$14.50 was the rental.
Okay, solid. So more than 1%, well over the 1% rule, almost 1.5. That's awesome. And,
and it appraised for 154 when I went to go refi it. I got an appraisal done.
Okay, so you use the Burr method on this, where you put money in to the property, but because it appraised more than 75% loan to value, you're able to pull out your initial equity, and now you've got no money in the deal.
Correct.
Right, but you're making positive cash flow, and so that comes out to infinite cash flow then, right?
Correct.
Because you're making money on no money.
Yeah.
And then you can take that and then wash, rinse, and repeat that over and over again. Now, did you have money on the sidelines to go get your second and third deal?
No.
Or
So
did you have to wait for the Burr?
No. So I didn't have money on the side. Even for my first deal, I got 100% funding. So like, how far you went on Craigslist to get your, loan. In our group, we actually had lenders. So they did 100% purchase and 100% rehab.
Awesome. Okay, nice.
For that. Yeah.
Okay.
So
cool.
I was able to do that. Now, I could have used another lender or waited, but my second deal, I didn't get till 9 months later. That's why I was like, my first one was probably beginner's luck. It took me a while to figure out how to get a property under contract after that one. Like,
okay.
Like
so
at the numbers that I
maybe
wanted.
like a little bit of beginner's luck, and then then you had like a little bit of a dry spell. And you had to really figure things out from an acquisition standpoint. Okay, gotcha.
And I had the dry spell because I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money to invest, to put down, or anything.
You had to wait till the last R of the Burr. You have to go through the whole process, get to that, and then repeat it, right?
But I had to. But more importantly, I had to make sure that I wasn't going to have any money stuck in the deal, because I didn't have any money to stuck in the deal. So
but you have to pay back your investors, though.
Right.
You have to pay back your private money lenders. Yeah.
Right. But then let's just say the rehab went over 5,000, or it took a little bit longer.
Which it always does, right?
Yeah. I didn't have that. So I had to make sure that I was super like when I did a deal, I had to make sure that I was going to have no money stuck in the deal, and then some extra just in case, because that's why I lost a lot of, because I didn't have any money at all. I let go of a bunch of opportunities. But you know what? That was a situation that I was in. If maybe I had $5,000, $10,000, then maybe my first deal would have been a couple months later, and I could have, I could have done that deal, but I didn't feel confident at the time.
Okay, gotcha. So
Yeah.
how did you end up then getting that second deal? What did you have to learn in between? What was the knowledge gap? And then how did you get that second deal?
So what happened between that 9 months is I got really good at looking for deals, doing my numbers, all of that. So it was kind of like a blessing in disguise in hindsight. Once I got my second deal, which was also an online auction, it was on hubzoo.com. So I just bid online, I won the bid, did the closing and repeated that burr method. Once I hit my second deal, like third, fourth, fifth, sixth, every month or 2 months, I just kept getting another deal. So yeah.
And what was like your primary method of acquisition? What like marketing channel would you get those from?
So most of them were MLS. The first
MLS,
two were auction, and then after that, everything was pretty
So
much.
it was sitting right there on the MLS, available to the public because it all gets syndicated to Zillow, Trulia, and all that, so everybody could see it. Yeah, you saw some value in it that I can make some money off of it, but anybody else could have done that deal too. So it's
Absolutely, yes. Anybody could have done that deal, right?
Okay,
right.
Cool.
So yeah, just kind of scaled up over the years.
Okay. And what does your business look like today?
Today I have 40 rentals.
Okay, wow.
And I've kind of went from, I'm still doing rentals here.
All in Illinois?
Yes, all in Illinois.
Now tell me why they say Illinois is one of the top 6 states not to buy rentals. I've heard crazy high property taxes. I've got a relative that buys, I think, in the Schaumburg area. And he's done really well with it. I think he's got about 20 properties there. He's my cousin. But I've seen enough Instagram reels where they're like, I would never buy a property in Illinois, in this state, that state, but Illinois always comes up. What's the reason for that?
I'm so glad you guys think that way because you guys keep out of my territory, honestly. Honestly, Illinois is probably, even though there's really high property taxes here, it's one of the worst in the country. There's really high rents here.
Yeah. So so it kind of offsets it.
It does. It totally does. Yeah. Each one of my properties, on average, cash flows net $500 per month. Each one.
Okay. And that's what you're looking for after debt service and everything, $500 a door. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
$500 a door. Yes.
Awesome.
Some have 700, 800. Some have a little bit less, but that's the average 500 per door.
So you think that's kind of like a secret? Just Illinois people just do deals in Illinois. Everybody else stays out as soon as they see property, because we're not scared of property taxes. We live in New Jersey. So
yeah, you know how it is. Like with media, right? Media always scares you. I'm not saying that there's not bad pockets in Chicago. There are some bad pockets in Chicago where there's more crime, but I stay away. A lot of investors stay away from some of those areas.
So what's your sweet spot? Like B plus areas, C areas?
I do B to C plus.
Okay.
B
okay, got it.
I have a couple in the A as long as the numbers make sense, but yeah.
But not so much in the war zones and so on.
No, I'm not in those areas at all.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And do you do any sort of government subsidies, Section 8 programs and things like that? What's like your tenant filtration criteria?
Out of the 40, I have 3 on Section 8.
Okay.
And I choose Section 8 based on the suburb. So in the Illinois market, certain suburbs get a lot more for rent based on what Section 8 decides. Like they want an area to grow or whatever it is, like they want more tenants to go there. So they incentivize landlords and say, we're going to pay a lot more. So in those areas, yes, I do Section 8. Still put them through a background check and everything like I do with everybody else, but it's kind of strategic.
Okay, got it. We have some questions that are starting to come in. We'll do Q&A at the end. But yeah, if anything resonates with you guys as you're listening to this webinar, definitely pop it into the Q&A box or the chat box, and I'll be sure to bring it up. And if you want to put in parentheses who you want that directed towards, just put that in there as well. Faria, the next question for you is, what does your like overarching company look like today? So it's Hudson Edge Real Estate, right? And I know you've kind of shifted focus into the commercial space. Are you still in residential? Do you have like divisions built out? Because you remember in our program, the way we teach it is build out the wholesaling division, have a rentals division, and then perhaps a rehab division as well, and then continue building on. So have you built it in terms of divisions, or are you like all in on the commercial real estate space?
And so I do have currently both residential and commercial. I am currently doing, I think about 11 rehabs that's going on.
Okay.
And on the commercial
You have
side,
11 rehabs going on right now? Wow. Okay. No, I mean, that's not easy to manage.
some of them
it
are
all.
actually on market right now. So they're in
Okay, good.
process. I'm actually trying to, what I want to do in next few months is I do want to liquidate most of my current residential that are in process or somewhere in between rental. And then
Yeah.
I do want to build it the way we, you taught us, Shomail, and have a wholesale section and a rehab section separately. So I am working on building a wholesale business also, because I do get a lot of things coming, a lot of deals coming to me that I don't currently take full advantage of, in the sense that I just, just don't have the bandwidth for it. So I'm trying to build a wholesale team as well. I know some of the members.
Yes, also, I think it all, and I'm sure you guys might agree, is that it all starts with marketing and lead generation, right? And then once you have the deal, then you decide, do I want to buy and hold this, and how I'm going to fund it through seller financing or through private money lender and what have you, or through my own capital. So you decide that, or you could, depending on the cash flow situation at the time, you could just sell it off and wholesale it. Of course, be ready to pay heavy taxes on that later on. And then you've got, the opportunity to rehab it if you really want to do that. What did Corona do to each of your businesses? So March 2020, just rewind the tape a little bit. And was that like an inflection point on any of your businesses, and did it have an impact? For us, it was a night and day type of a proposition for us. We completely changed our entire business after doing almost a similar activity for about 12 years. We completely changed everything. And I'll share some of that, but I want to talk about what you guys did when COVID happened and everything shut down and people thought that the real estate market was going to go down the toilet. Obviously, we know we had a V-shaped recovery and real estate went bonkers after that. What did that do to your business, and how did that shape where you're at today? So Farrah, if you want to take that first, and then we'll go to Faria.
Okay. So when COVID hit, probably the first thing I was worried about is, oh my God, are my tenants going to pay? And so I'm like, okay, let me just kind of slow down. So for about a month, I didn't look for anything. I'm just going to see what kind of happens. And then about a month went by. I got money from all my tenants that following month. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, if I've learned anything, I've always learned that when everybody backs out, I could go forward. So, I continued. I probably had my I had my most successful year during 2020. I did the most amount of deals in 2020.
During COVID,
and
okay.
What I did was I shifted because of me watching the market. I shifted from rentals to flips because people were overpaying for properties, at top dollar. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of this. So I kind of slowed that down and I did more flips and this last year, and I'm doing some this year as well, just to take advantage.
Nice. And also because the rates are low, so people are paying more for those same properties, and there's a lot of liquidity on the market. Money's easy to come by. How are you, and this is for both of you, how are you managing your rehabs, working with GCs, particularly as a female? Is that a challenge? And how do you deal with that? And then Faria, go back to, talking about how you're doing 11 at the same time and how you're managing that with everything else. So Faria, why don't you take that one? Sure.
That is a challenge, being a female. I don't know if it's just being a female, but dealing with contractor in general, I think is a challenge. So 7 of them are in Toledo. And I did have a contractor. I had a head contractor who was subbing this out, and he was the one who was managing most of them. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he passed away last week with COVID. So now that is, I have to kind of restructure that. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. And going back to your question, I found that over and over, there are contractors that I've had really great contractors. They would do 1 or 2 deals or 3 deals, maybe good, and then they get comfortable with you, or they start cutting corners rather than, so that's where I think I found most of my challenges with with GCs. So that's why I really want to kind of reorganize where I have a construction manager that will take away that part from me, because that is not something I want to spend my time doing at all.
Okay. So is that something that you're looking to kind of scale
Kind of-
down a little bit because of all the stuff that's there?
I don't know
That's involved
necessarily
with
scaling
contractors?
down. I think I need to organize that better.
Okay.
Where I have somebody who can actually manage that and take that part of the job away from me. So I'm looking for the who can manage that.
And that's a different game altogether, because you're remote flipping. You're here in New Jersey, right? And you're flipping in another state. Whereas, so you're not visiting the properties necessarily as often or at all. And you're relying on other people, eyes on the ground, to kind of check in on that. So
And that goes
talk about
both
the
ways,
challenge with
because
that.
I am doing some in Jersey too, and it's pretty much, I face similar challenges either
Yeah.
way. So,
But what are the challenges specifically for like remote flipping and doing it in a different state?
it's definitely having to rely on somebody, finding the person, finding someone who you can actually trust, because you don't know what they're saying is true. So you still have to go visit it, or you still have to be on top of them.
Definitely. Okay.
Or having
Do you send somebody, Steve Jackson or any of the other guys that we
I
work with,
do.
you send
Steve
them
checks in,
to check in on it? Okay.
they check in on
Yeah,
it.
that's the best way to do it, is have a third party that well that can go and take pictures and verify everything.
Yeah, so I
before
have
you make
Steve
the payments.
checking in every week or every couple of weeks, and I kind of pay him by the hour for the days he go in.
And for you, what did COVID do to your business? Was it any change? You just carried on status quo, or you said, no, this is an
No,
opportunity?
I mean, it definitely was. Obviously, the first couple of weeks was very challenging because we didn't know where we were going, like how we were, what was going to happen. So we did take a step back, and I think on the commercial side in 2020, we didn't have a lot of acquisition. I think we had a lot of time to learn and kind of sharpen our pencils for the next year, which is what 2021 we closed. I think about 5 commercial deals, but 2020, like right before COVID, I had a deal ready to close literally like March 30th. We had, we raised the capital, we had due diligence done, we spent a lot of money on the due diligence. And then of course, 17 or 16 of March, when everything shut down, all our investors panicked. They're like, no, we don't want to spend the money now. We don't know what's going to happen. So long story short, we had to walk away from that. As far as my other retails in Texas, especially, I lost several tenants. We lost a lot of cash flow. So it was a struggle for the first 6-7 months to kind of balance of what, obviously, even though we weren't receiving rents, our mortgage had to be paid. So there was no break there. So it was challenging to manage that, but we finally, we bounced back from it now.
Okay, that's great to hear. And I know New Jersey's also opened up eviction. So, if you can't do cash for keys and get them out, and they're not able to pay or work out a payment plan, then eviction is a last resort that you can now exercise. Farrah, talk about, you made that transition from rentals to now taking advantage of the market, and you had a killer 2020, and you started doing flips. How are you managing your flips? The challenges as a female, working with contractors. We have a saying with contractors, and I'm sorry if you're a contractor listening to this, but it's just more so for real estate investors to protect themselves. And it's that contractors are guilty until proven innocent. That's the exact opposite, of the American judicial system. But yeah, you have to prove yourself because there's so many games that they play. And often you see that cash flow is a problem for a lot of contractors. So they're short on another job. And so they'll take your initial deposit and start finishing that other job with it. And they're all over the place with their bookkeeping and accounting, and monies are getting intermixed and so on. So your paperwork has to be like airtight when you're working contractors. Now put in the fact that you're a female and there's this sort of gender gap. Talk about those challenges that have come up, or is everything like hunky-dory and your rehab business is just fine? My personal thing is that I've never had a single rehab. We've done over 600 real estate transactions. I've never had a single one that didn't have a problem. Like, we wait if things are going really smooth and we're like, something's wrong. When is something gonna like pop up? Because it's gonna happen soon. So talk about that, Farrah.
So the first 8 projects that I did, I actually managed my own projects. So I got the
Okay.
electrician, the plumber, everybody together and did that.
In-house.
Yeah, I did it. We actually, our support group had a list of, tradesmen that we could use that they had vetted. So it wasn't as bad for us, like I never had an issue with a contractor or subcontractor running away with my money or anything like that. Once I hit that 8 and I was trying to get busy, I was like, you know what, I need to spend more time acquiring properties rather than kind of, managing the property. So I shifted there and I got myself a contractor. Luckily, I haven't had any bad luck with the contractors. They've worked
Okay.
out for me. I've had the same contractor and they just hired 3 or 4 different teams underneath them for the first 2.5 years. But then my contractor that I had for until last year kind of got, like, hey, what are you doing? I want to do this too, and got busy with them doing his own project. So I have another contractor I started working with late last year, actually. And it's actually a friend of a friend of mine. So it just works out for me. But so yeah, I got lucked out in that way.
Yeah, you dropped a gem. Is that if you have a plumber, make sure you have a bench. Just like in basketball, you got the 5 starters that play the game, but then you've got substitutes that are ready to go in case something happens. And something almost always happens. Something happens to their family member, or they see that you're doing really well with your flips, and then they start to get into the business also, and so on and on and on. So always have a bench. Where do you see yourself going with the flipping business? A lot of people now start to find the fork in the road and say, okay, I'm going to now start tackling bigger projects. So I'll do new construction, right? And buy raw land or develop land and then and build up. Some people go into build for rent or build to flip, or commercial like Faria is, industrial strip malls, assisted living, whatever. Where do you see yourself going from here?
So I'm still doing some flips here in the Chicago area, but I bought 7 plots of land out in Florida, Southwest Florida, and I'm
Okay.
doing new construction there. So we're going to be building
Nice.
duplexes and triplexes to start with, and
Nice.
then who knows, what we'll do after that. But the market right now, is hot. Our mentor actually started a program within the program that we had called Mastery Elite, where he did a bunch of research out there. And found like pockets of where to buy land. So we kind of just followed. And as there's like 30, 35 of us all out there in Florida. I mean, we're going back and forth, but right now in the permitting process, I haven't broke ground yet, but I'm thinking in the next 5 to 6 weeks, I should break ground on 3 of those lots.
Okay.
And then I'll probably keep like a duplex for myself just to go and chill there when it gets bad here in Chicago with the weather.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my plan for the next
Nice.
next 2 to 3 years is right now I have 17 units that I'm going to build, and then from there I'll just keep building until I hit, I don't know what my number is yet on cash
Yeah.
flow over there.
Well, there's probably an Airbnb play on that too, easily.
Yes.
So that's becoming the new thing, is not just Burr, but Bourbon B.
Yeah,
Which
Bourbon,
is
yeah.
which is basically build, renovate into an Airbnb, essentially. So yeah, best of luck with that, and keep us posted on how that goes, and we'll probably have you back just to talk about that specific piece of your business as like a
Sure.
one-on-one interview. I'm really curious about that as well. Faria, where do you see your business going in the coming years, and how you're kind of branched out now already into commercial? Are you going to double down and do more commercial deals and continue to build the empire, or where do you see yourself going?
So yeah, I'm currently in 9 different states, but I'm actually trying to scale that down as far as the location, because I wanna travel less for work travel less.
You guys are like exact
I'm literally
opposite.
every week I'm
You
flying.
went all in 2020. You kind of took time off. Now you're like scaling down. She's scaling up. Okay, so that's good. I mean, there's different ways to run your business.
Yeah, I think what I've seen is, for those who are really successful, is doing better in your backyard is probably like, it just helps you narrow down the timing for flying and all of that good stuff. So I mean, I'm literally flying every week, and I love it, but I don't want to do it as often anymore. Plus my daughters are older now, so I want to spend more time with them. So I definitely want to scale as far as numbers. So my goal in the next 3 years is over maybe 125 million in transaction and about 100 million in square feet that I would like to have under management. I'm kind of 1/3 way there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of trying to establish in my backyard now. And certain state I still want to be. I'm in, of course, Northeast and then Florida. So East Coast states I still want to be. I kind of want to narrow down, slow down from Texas and some of the Western states.
Okay, got it. Farrah, you decided at some point that, oh, I'm flipping properties, I'm holding properties, I've got this full-time job, I'm also raising kids. And then maybe I'll like just pass up on sleep and write a book also. So how did you decide to author a book? What brought that on? And tell us a little bit about your book.
Sure. So what inspired me to write the book was I would get a lot of questions from people, especially like women, like, how did you do it working full time? How did you do it with single, it says single parent raising 2 kids, how did you do it with no money? Like, so I'm like, and I would give them responses, but it would be like, like 5-minute responses. You can never really explain the whole picture, right? So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to put all of this into a book. And then I can be like, here, guys, here's all the answers to all your questions. So it's kind of what like inspired me to write the book. And the book has a little bit of my, has my journey, how I started, my background. And then it also has like case studies. It has 5 of the properties that I did, like what I bought it for, how much rehab I put in, what it appraised for. It's got little pictures of my properties. So all of that to make it like real, right? And then, throughout my journey, like there was, a time period in 2016 where I actually got let go from my full-time job. And so I had to find another one. And that's where I said that I had to switch and do a flip because, I didn't have any income for that month. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So then I went back into rentals when I did find a new job. So kind of just talk about that journey a little bit. Talk about how, it's influenced my kids and now what they're doing. I was able to take my both of my kids to Hajj in Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago because of real estate,
nice.
right? So
awesome.
so just all of that. I started a non-for-profit called We Win Foundation. I wrote, I talked a little bit about the organization called We Win, which is kind of a support group for women to get into real estate investing. So all of that is in there. I think it's a good read for people who want to get started, but maybe don't have the resources necessary to start.
Can you take like half a minute to go into the chat box and put where people can buy your book and also the URL for We Win? And we'll send this out in the emails also, but I think for the people that are attending, if they want to buy the book, that'd be pretty awesome. I'm going to pick up a copy myself. And I know my wife said that she was joining. Let me see if she's on, because she really wanted to hear this as a mom of 3 as well. And she's an avid reader. She takes 2 books with her usually. She'll do one on the flight to the destination and one on the way back. So definitely gonna, we'll probably be ripping through your book next. And also put the URL for We Win. Faria, the question that I had for you was, how important is it to have that mastermind or a support group? Could you have done it without? And is it like critical to your success, or you could have figured it out without a support system?
I think it's absolutely very critical to your success. I was just reading the book called Who Not How, and I don't know if anybody who hasn't read it, it's a great read, and it kind of tells you how you can do it on your own, but it just accelerates the process, right? Because you're now doing with those who already done it, who invented the wheel, and you're just taking the guidance from them and learning from their mistakes. So it saves you all the mistakes that you would have done and you would have made throughout time. So it definitely, it was very helpful, and it was very critical to my success. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Farrah, same question for you. You talked a lot about, you had a support system, you guys do deals together, you have private money lenders within there. Talk about how important was a support system for you coming up in the business.
Support system is actually key. So real estate is a team sport. You really need some type of support, whether it's, support in the real estate industry or even support in your own home whatever you can, whatever, whoever can help, like that's the one time where, don't be the type of person, I can do everything myself. You actually should be reaching out. That's what people are there for. So I don't think I would have had what I had if I didn't have a support group and within my real estate. In my personal life, my family and everything, they were out of state, so it was a little bit difficult. I had the mental support, but I had to figure it out somehow. Whether it was, I went back to school, I went back to get my MBA, and I had to take my kids to, to class sometimes. I had to do whatever I had to do to make it work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You guys ever see the movie Dangal with it's Amir Khan, and he's got two daughters that he brings up, and they're going to be the first wrestling champions for India, right? And at the end, they say, like, he finally pats her on the back and says shabash, which means, I'm proud of you. And I think for a lot of South Asians, especially because that dynamic with their father and the absolute need and almost mandate to succeed, right, is there from early on. It's almost like you were conceived to do big things. And so talk a little bit about, like, how do your parents see your choice going into real estate specifically? So you didn't do engineering, you didn't do medicine, right? But now you're a real estate investor and you're successful at it. And it's a path that's less traveled. So how do your parents see the life choice that you made with this endeavor, and where you're at with all your success today? And either of you can take that question.
Do you want to go first, Faria?
Sure. Well, I did have to go finish my school to give them that peace of mind first.
Okay, so you handed them the
I think
degree.
their main, yeah. So with my parents, well, especially my mom, her thing was, well, finish your engineering, and then whatever you choose to do is okay. So I think by finishing that helped. I did go back to do my MBA, and I was taking my kids to class with me. And I was bringing them to your class, Shomail, if you remember.
Yep.
So that helped actually ultimately, because my girls know a lot about real estate now. They're 15, but they're ready to invest from their first deal. So they're listening, so pay attention. So yes, I think my parents at this point, I think they've realized that yes, I made it, sort of. So they're very supportive of it, and they're proud of it. But of course, in the beginning, it's not an 8-to-5 job, and it's very different than just having some stability. So yes, they were doubtful, I would say, but now they're very supportive. Especially my father having some real estate background, he was supportive of that from the beginning.
Oh, okay. So he had that exposure, because most don't come from a business background, much less real estate. They come from the traditional job set mentality. Farrah, how about you?
So when I first started real estate, for a good 3 years, I didn't tell anybody that I was doing real estate.
Kept it a big secret.
And I think you guys can probably understand why, because when you start telling people, they think you're crazy, like, oh, why are you going to do real estate? Just get married. You have a good job already. What are you doing? I don't want to hear any of that
before. So
yeah, I didn't want to hear any of that. So
okay.
What happened was then in 2018 or 2019, I think it was, when my mentor wanted to do a video of my story, and so did a video, and then he posted it. And normally whenever there were any videos, like posted on Facebook, I said, don't tag me, nothing like that or whatever. And so like this one was like a longer, like kind of like a little documentary type. So then my sister saw it. My sister actually knew. So my immediate family I had told, but nobody else. So my sister's like, you know what? I'm sharing this. And I'm like, she's like, it's time. She's like, you know what? Like, who cares? Like, I'm so proud of you. Who cares? Yeah. So she shared it on Facebook, and then everybody found out. And at that time I had 16 properties. So it was
nice.
I think people
that's a good way to make a big splash. That's much better than like, I'm on my first one and not sure if it's going to work out or not. So I think that's a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah. So it was crazy. But with my parents, shortly after I started real estate, my dad had a really bad fall, and so he he was yeah, he wasn't able to kind of understand like what I was doing. So he didn't really get to see my success, which is probably like, I feel kind of bad, like that kind of hurts me where he wasn't able to be like proud of like what I was able to accomplish. But my mom's there and she's witnessing it. And, at first she was like, no, just get married. You don't need to do all this, like, because you're not complete without a husband, like in our, I guess in our, I don't want to say religion, but in our culture,
Community
right? Like,
culture, yeah.
yeah. So she's always been kind of worried, but I think now, she gets it. Like she understands, why I did what I did, how it's impacting my kids, and now that I just want to share that yesterday was my last day of working in corporate.
Oh,
So,
wow, nice. Get out of
yes.
here. Oh,
So,
wow. Okay, you gotta that was, so for me, that was March 12th, 2014, after doing 11 and a half years of corporate America and the pharmaceutical industry.
yeah.
Hands down, one of the best days of my life.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that. Like, how did you go about it? How did you plan it? What actually transpired? How did you break the news to your boss and all of that?
Well, I've been trying to do this for like a year and a half now because
Yeah.
I've had enough cash flow to, replace my income and then some. But it's been really hard because I've been in the insurance industry for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's been really hard for me to tell people that I'm not in corporate anymore. I don't have this career. And so what I did was I went from like working full time to like 4 days a week, so then working 3 days a week, till then working 2 days a week. And finally, like over the past 6 months, it's come to a point where, I'll show up to work once every 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I feel so bad now. Like, and they're like, oh, we'll just take whatever we can get from you,
Yeah.
Like they're not saying anything. So I was like, okay, well, and then I told my boss, I'm like, end of January, I'm done. So, but it is the best, one of the best feelings ever.
Oh my God.
Ever.
I feel like it's that, you remember when the last class just before summer vacation started in school and you're waiting for that bell, and like for us it was 3:05 p.m. and when it was like 3:04 we're like, oh my God, June, July, August, freedom, free. So like pretty much the rest of your life, you're free, you're self-employed. You answer only to yourself, you're your own boss, you don't have to ask anybody when to travel and all of that stuff. So it's an amazing like lifestyle, and you can work literally from anywhere because real estate is everywhere. And most of the work gets done right here on your smartphone, right? So
no more Sunday blues. I used to get the Sunday blues all the time.
Man,
and it's like no more of that. I mean, I wish more people could feel
if you get that feeling, you're not living out your purpose for sure, right? And you should figure out another pathway. Like Warren Buffett said that if you can't figure out how to make money while you sleep, you will work forever, right? And that was something that resonated with me a long time ago when I first read that quote. And I'm like, yeah, residual income, passive income, any possible way to make that on autopilot, not having to work, and so, it's great that you guys figured that formula out and now you're living it. We're gonna switch gears to some tactical and strategy sort of stuff, and more so from questions. There's a couple questions that have been posted here. Victor's congratulating you on leaving the corporate world. And yeah, we will share the recorded interview. So not to worry, if you registered for this, we have your information. Okay, so somebody's saying, Victor also saying, I want my niece to see this. Okay, Rob is asking, can you finance a property bought at an online auction, or do you need to pay all cash? So my brother actually answered it, yes, you can finance it. If you're getting hard money or private financing, you can finance anything as long as you have a good relationship with your lender. Okay, somebody asked about tenant management. Both of you have a lot of tenants. How do you manage that large number of tenants? Are you doing it in-house? Do you have a property management company? Talk a little bit about that.
I'll take that first. Yeah, we do have property management depending on the location, because we are in different states. We are not managing the tenants ourselves, except for what I have in New Jersey. That's the only one we're managing ourselves. But I do have somebody living in the building that we're giving some kind of discount to do any kind of last minute thing, like if someone's pipe burst or something like that. But I am at the stage where I'm using property management.
Okay, and Farrah, how about you? You've got 40, you said, and building
Yes.
on top of that. How do you?
Yeah, I'm actually managing all by myself. I haven't given it up yet because
Wow. So how, like Excel spreadsheet? Do you have them on like a software, Buildium, Tenant Cloud, Folio, one of those? How are you
yeah,
doing
you're gonna find this funny. I still manage on Excel. Um,
it? All right.
just because I don't know, I don't know why I like it. Like I like to sit down and do my numbers and at the end of the
Yeah.
day see what, how much I've made. And so I don't want to really give that up unless it becomes like daunting for me. But because I
Yeah.
enjoy doing the
Well, I
numbers,
mean, if it's working for you, just do it, right? That's all it is.
yeah,
But some of
exactly.
those softwares can make your life a lot easier, though.
I know. I've
yeah.
actually signed up for Buildium, but I just, I'll probably look into it now that I quit my job and
Yeah, now
stuff.
you have all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
And then as far as like when like if something happens with the plumbing or this and that, whatever, HVAC, I actually have a really, really good team of people. So all I do is text, let's just say the furnace isn't working, I'll text my HVAC guy. He'll go out, right? He'll tell me exactly what's going on, how much it is, and then I'll be like, yeah, go ahead and do it. He'll do it, and then I'll pay him. I don't have to get off my, my chair or my sofa or anything like that. I just
Yeah.
basically do everything over the phone. So I think because of technology,
Yeah.
it's gotten so much easier. Back in the day, people used to go house to collect rent. You don't have to do that anymore. Everything's ACH or Zelle or however you want to manage it. So to me, I don't want to give up that money yet because honestly, I spend 3 hours a month on managing my
So you don't
properties
need
when
to,
it comes
yeah.
to construction part of it. Yeah, I'll do the numbers take a little bit more, but I don't want to give, whatever that 8 to 10% that you have to give up yet. Maybe later on, or maybe I'll give it to one of my
Unnecessary, yeah.
kids to manage. Yeah.
Agreed. And they're not going to care about it the way you're going to care
Yeah.
about it, right?
Mhm.
So they're going to have other clients that have 10 properties or 20 properties.
Yeah.
And I've done the property management thing before, like in-house, we had a whole turnkey, acquire the property, sell the property, renovate the property, and then manage it in-house. We built it up to like 250 units. And after a while, it's like one of the most thankless businesses, especially if it's not your own property. And we ended up selling that entire arm of our business to a larger company. But yeah, kudos to you for managing that yourself. Do your tenants know who you are? Or is it like kind of anonymous? Or do you build relationships with your tenants and they get to know you and you get to know them? Because there's different schools of thought on that.
So most of my tenants now know who I am. So initially what I do is I don't go and show the property. I have an agent that goes and shows the property and does the background checks for me and all of that, because that I don't want to do. I don't like any of that stuff, so I'm willing to give up, first month's rent or half of first month's rent for that. Then from there, they have my number. So, I guess what happens is when they have your number for some reason, if you're on Facebook, it shows up like you may know this person. So now I think people know who I am because I've gotten calls from my tenants and they're like, are you the Farrah Ali that wrote the book? I'm like, yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, that's you. Like, so like, they're also like, make sure that they pay on time and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, right now it's been working for me. So I'm doing it, but I think eventually
you're like, before you buy my book, can you pay the rent?
Yeah. So it's been working for me. So I'm just keeping it that way. But I think one of the things I'm gonna do this year is hand it off to somebody I know.
Okay.
And just have them kind of manage that because
Yeah, it doesn't
really
even have to be like, I mean, with 40 properties, you're probably like between 5 to 7% if you have to pay that, or you could just do a flat fee if you want per house.
Yeah.
Because you could say like, look, these 30 pay like first of the month. You don't have to do anything, but just, take it in. So for these, I'm just going to pay you like $25 flat or something like that.
Yeah.
That's another way to do it.
And then I'm probably just going to give it to a family member who doesn't, they have the time to do it. So it's kind of like, in-house. And then one of the things I know I'm really bad at is if someone does pay a little late, like I don't charge a late fee because I feel bad. So when I give it to this other person, they're not going to feel bad. So they're just going to make sure that they collect those late fees. But I'm really, really bad at collecting late fees because I'm like, oh man, they can't pay their rent because they're not getting their paycheck. So why should I charge them an extra $100? So I need to treat it more like a business sometimes. Yeah,
understandable. Selma is asking, do either of you have a background in construction? And if not, how do you manage contractors to make sure the work and repairs are done right?
I do not have background in construction.
So how do you get over that knowledge gap then? What's the way to
I
do
think
that?
just experience. I think, after every deal, you learn a little bit here and there. So by now, I think I have a good grip of it. I can't say I know everything, but it's over time to experience.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for me, when I took the courses that I took, our mentor took us through 20 to 25 properties. And we just, in a matter of 6-7 weeks, we walked through 20 to 25 properties, give us exact pricing of what things should cost, red flags on what, what to look out for, foundation issues, all of that. So in that time period, we had a pretty good idea of, what to spend, how much it should cost as far as rehabs and what a repair should look like. And then, like Faria said, after that, you just gain more and more experience as you do your own. So it's good to always have, for you to find a mentor and have them help you.
Yeah, I think for Shomail, you did that. Like, we went to property tours with your CAN group, so that definitely gave the, a little bit of background to start with.
Awesome. Last parting words from each of you, and especially if you can talk to not just the general audience, but also to girls, women that are looking to go into real estate, or just kind of like, at a crossroads where they're a at-home mom, kids are back in school, and they're looking to do something, and they're not sure what it is. So if you guys can give some parting words and advice to the attendees, that would be awesome.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, please.
Go ahead. You can
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you want to do, something, I think real estate is a way to, like I said, freedom. I really, really would wish that more people, especially women, would get into real estate investing because, you just never know. You want to be independent. It doesn't matter how much money you have, whatever the case is. You should always be prepared. You should always be independent. You'd be a good role model. You'll never know how many more people you would inspire, right? So it always feels good to do something on your own, whether it's always constantly educating yourself. So real estate is a way to do it. But having that financial freedom, if you don't have that already, or just something else to do, there's, business, I think in general is something that I think is a big blessing, and it creates what it creates is for you to, you empower yourself and you empower other people. And it's a way to, you're actually able to give back when you get into business. So it doesn't matter if you don't have money. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. You may take a little bit longer than the average person if you don't have as much money, or maybe, you have young children, but you should get started, whatever it is. Go to your local meetup group, go to Shomail's program, whatever you have around you, whatever works, start somewhere, start reading a book, do something. And then one thing will lead you to another. And eventually, you'll be owning your first property.
Yeah, I would like to say that I don't think there is any shortcut to success. So their work has to be done regardless of which direction you take. So I don't want to sell a dream that, as soon as you start in real estate and you'll have financial freedom. It is work, and there's a lot of, like Farrah just mentioned, go to the local meetups. And that's where I started going to local meetups and networking with as many individuals as possible, where I started picking everyone's brain to see what works for me and what not. I think what's important is you liking what you do and being passionate about it. That helps always, but it does give you the freedom of timing if you're not stuck in 8 to 5, and especially if you have children. I've taken my children to all my properties, to closings, to anything that was necessary, wherever, whenever, and it just does give you that freedom because you're your own boss and you make your own rules. But there is definitely no shortcut to the work. And you have guidance. Reach out to, if you're in Northeast, Shomail's here, and I'm sure there's local guidance anywhere. It's just a matter of reaching out and asking for that help. And start with books and networks of individuals or whatever it is. Just start somewhere, and ultimately, once you start getting going, start to go, it comes. And just you'll see how, especially I think networking was one thing that helped me a lot, where I started getting deals more than I could handle at some point. So it's a matter of you really putting yourself out there.
Awesome. I think you hit the nail on the head, where it's like 99% mindset, where people can make their kids an excuse, or they can make them a reason to succeed. And you guys chose the latter, and that's why you're sitting exactly where you are today. We have a question from Doug Beck. Doug is extremely seasoned real estate investor. He was here in New Jersey. He's moved down to Sarasota, Florida, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of like Southwest Florida. Farrah might be a good contact for you to link up with. He's also in our WhatsApp group. He's asking, what's each of your favorite type of asset and why? And what's your least favorite and why? So Farrah, let's start with you.
This is going to sound, so I have a quote, and I learned that the biggest asset is your time. And I realized that after I started owning my own time. So time, people don't realize that you're not gaining any more time, but what you can do is you can make the quality of your time is more, that's more important than anything. And real estate gives you the path to be able to own your own time.
For sure. I think people are expecting like residential or whatever. You went straight philosophical on us. So
I did, but I do like
great answer.
Yeah, no, answer. I do like residential homes because everybody needs a roof over their house. So
what about least favorite asset?
Least favorite? I don't really know. I mean, I have a couple condos. I haven't ran into anything where, you
just have a good old time in real estate. So that's good.
I enjoy it. I really do.
We hope and pray it continues that way for you, especially your rehabs and flips, and it continues to go smooth for you. Faria, same question for you from Doug. What's your favorite type of asset and why? And what's your least favorite?
My favorite.
And I think you've shed some light on this already, but if you want to just double click on some of that.
Sure. My favorite type of assets, flex industrial, light industrial, because I think it's the least management intensive. We don't have, with retail, you have storefronts, you have customers coming in. With light industrial, most of our tenants are either contractors or church or school or things like that, where it's just they can fix their little things and they don't bother us. So the tenants are very, very handy.
How easy is that to lease up? To find
it's for flex industrial, which is basically somewhere between 3,000 to 7,000 square feet each unit. They're very easy. We have only done like Facebook marketing and Craigslist, and I have never really had vacancy more than a few weeks. We've been able to fill up immediately anytime we lost a tenant. One deal it's actually in Illinois and in Chicago, we actually had it under contract when it was completely vacant. It's a 4-unit. We filled up to we can't technically execute the lease till we take title, but we marketed it online just in Facebook marketing. We had 2 tenants already signed up prior to title, prior to us closing. And so we had to fill up right away. And then within like maybe 20 days, we filled up the rest. So,
nice.
So that definitely is my most favorite type. It's also right now is hot market for flex industrial. So definitely I love it. My least favorite type, I don't know which one I would say least, but I don't think I want to hold single family as a whole. Like I would do rehab or flips, but I don't want to manage individual homes, especially dealing with tenants I've dealt with previously.
Understood. And everybody's experience is different. So you guys are like night and day. Farah's on it. She's all about that single residential. So awesome. Guys, we've gotten a ton of these. This was great and very inspiring. And I really want to thank you both for taking the time out and, sharing and really spilling some of your guts about your background, all the challenges, obstacles that you had early on, and now the fruits of all that labor that you put in and what you're enjoying today with financial freedom through real estate. I just want to bring up real quick, and I'm going to do a screen share here. so that you guys see, those of you that are like remotely interested in real estate or real estate investing. I've been in this business since 2008 when the economic collapse happened. So my timing was good. We got into this business doing a lot of short sales and flipping properties early on, as is, buy them as is, flip them as is. So, you know, it was basically wholesaling. And that then evolved into rehabbing properties, which then evolved into, and we were doing about 40 properties at a time between Baltimore, Ohio, and New Jersey. And then we had this business where we were doing turnkey properties where we would find it and sell it to high net worth individuals and then manage it for them on the back end. And now today, I think we can say that we've come back full circle. So we do a lot of things, but one of the main things that we still do is we still hold rental properties, and that brings in the passive cash flow. And we still do a lot of wholesaling. We've doubled and tripled down on wholesaling, and that's become our main bread and butter today. And that could change, right? So you change with times. But if you are remotely interested, we're on a mission to build one of the largest real estate WhatsApp groups that's out there. We have folks that are doing deals amongst one another. And a lot of them have gone through the educational program that's on the back end of this, which is the TheREIBros Real Estate Profit System program, where, you know, we provide an investor network, an entire document vault, all the contracts, addendums, everything that we've had our attorneys, and we've spent well over 6 figures putting these things together, you know, because they don't have this stuff just sitting out there on Google or PDF templates, wholesaling agreements, flex options, all of these things are in there, spreadsheets, analyzers, how to analyze your deal, and all basically the know-how of how to do the business. All of the courses are on here, but if you do anything in terms of low-hanging fruit, join the WhatsApp group. It's $1 for the first month and then $29.95 after that, and get a sense and feel for the type of people that are in this community and the ones that you can do deals with, and also get yourself educated. So we have marketing and wholesaling, rehab, fix and flips, rental property empire, raising private capital, all of like what's considered the crux of REI, real estate investing. It's all in there. We used to do this live and in person with boot camps and everything. And at one point we used to sell it for $20,000. Now it's, you know, pennies on the dollar compared to that. So skip the trial and error and all the time that gets wasted. The ladies also talked about having a support system. So we're local here to New Jersey, but these strategies really work. This is one of our events that we do here in New Jersey when things were, you know, a little bit more, you know, before COVID. And we also have this free PDF that you can get on 51 ways to find motivated sellers. So take advantage of that. Go here, click on this. It'll take you to a library of videos that you can have for free and just get a taste of, you know, the type of information that we can provide you. And so the website is the TheREIBros, and we'll send it to you by email as well, the TheREIBros.com, and it brings you to this page. Last but not least, yeah, so that's the page that it brings you to, and you can go through here and peruse through that. Last but not least, Farrah talked about her book, Diaries of a Female Real Estate Investor. Learn how a single mom went from $80K in debt to a multi-million-dollar portfolio. So check that out. That's on Amazon. And you can have it as early as Thursday if you order it today. All right, so that's it for all the shameless plugs. But ladies, thank you so much for joining, inspiring, educating, motivating everybody that was here to listen, and those that'll listen to this talk later on. I want to thank both of you for taking the time out to share.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Take care.
Thanks.